Fox News host and Army veteran Pete Hegseth has been tapped for defense secretary, and he has a lot of ideas when it comes to the military.
The dumbest phrase on planet Earth in the military is our diversity is our strength. Well, first of all, you got to fire, you got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever that was involved in any of the DEI woke shit, has got to go. And as far as recruiting, to hire the guy that, did Top Gun Maverick and create some real ads that motivate people to want to serve. We should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. So there aren't enough lesbians in San Francisco to man the 82nd Airborne. Mm-hmm. And in trying to cater to that, they lost the boys from Tennessee and Kentucky and Oklahoma. The traditional dudes who did it because they loved their country, or they wanted the adventure, or they, wanted to try tough things, or they need an up and out of their community, whatever it is. But we let in TikTok where they can trans our kids and they don't trans their kids.
A lot to discuss with our next guests, CNN senior political commentators Van Jones and David Urban. Van, to you first. We just heard from the man who's been nominated to run the Pentagon. What do you make of that? What you just heard?
Well, I think, look, I don't, he looks great, I mean, but he sounds terrible. And I think that if it's not broke, don't fix it. There's this fiction that there's something wrong with America's military. What problem are you trying to solve? We have the most lethal, the most respected, the most feared military in the history of the world. There's not even number two. And so the idea that our military, there's something wrong with it, our generals are terrible, this is a fiction. And so when you start trying to solve non-existent problems with the best fighting force in the world, you actually create problems. And I don't think there's any evidence or any data that shows that having women involved in our military has made our military worse. Where is the evidence of this? This is all fiction, it's all ideology, and it's all quite frightening. And and I don't think anybody can defend this choice. This is not somebody who, he's a Fox News host who used to be in the military. If that's the state that we're going to be going with, I think it's very alarming.
David, is Pete Hegseth qualified to be the Secretary of Defense?
Yeah, listen, so Jim, define, what are the qualifications? Where's the job description? Look, Pete Hegseth's a smart guy, Princeton undergrad, master's from Harvard, served a couple tours downrange, combat's been a veterans advocate for years. I think Pete Hegseth is as qualified as the next guy. Listen, the tape that you ran there, Jim, there's obviously some things in there I disagree with what he's saying. I agree with Van. The United States military is the best and most lethal fighting force in the world. They do incredible amounts of things right, but they do things wrong, and there's room for improvement. Listen, we all sat on this set when we watched the China spy balloon float, fecklessly across the United States, or float across the United States, and our military was kind of, sitting there not knowing what to do. There are
Is that
some
because
issues
of a
with
woke military? That there was a balloon flying over the country?
No, Jim. But I'm just saying, when Van says we can't, it's going great and best, there's things we can do better. We can improve, right? We can't meet our recruiting goals. We can't meet our retention goals. Something's going on in the military, right? There needs to be reform on acquisition. We can do things much better. And there is an impression in America, across a large swath of America, that the military's too woke, that they're worried about, Green New Deal rather than fighting wars. The main purpose of the U.S. military is to
David, what
close
is that?
with
I'm
and
sorry,
kill
what does that mean?
Jim,
what
hold
does
on.
a Green New Deal
Hold
have
on.
to do with the military? No, hold on.
Jim,
You've been
here's what it
talking
does.
for 2
Here's what it
minutes.
does. Yeah, here's what it does, Jim. Here's what it does. When the National
It's the
Security
most powerful
Advisor,
military
Mike Waltz,
in
is
the
on.
world.
Right. Yeah, but we
Okay.
shouldn't be worried about. We're talking about green tanks, getting green tanks and things. We should be focused on lethality. What makes the military the most lethal? That's what we should be focused on.
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
Let me tell you what's happened is in trying to make sure that our military is more lethal, more efficient. They've wanted to integrate some clean and green and solar and other technologies just to make us more flexible, just to deal with supply lines. If you don't have to worry about oil and you can bring in different types of technology, integrating technology into our military is a smart thing. But what's happened is that the right-wing media has taken that and makes it seem like our generals are sitting around like, talking about environmental science. This is
yeah.
military science with new technology.
Former Fox News anchor Pete Hegseth is being tapped to run the Pentagon. Hegseth is a decorated Army veteran with an Ivy League education. He's also a conservative firebrand who's pushed conspiracy theories surrounding the January 6th attacks, the COVID pandemic, and more. Listen to a taste of it.
I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years. Really, I don't really wash my hands ever.
Help me.
But the left is going to attack him for this, saying he's releasing war criminals, he's loosening the rules of engagement. It appears that crazy Nancy Pelosi doesn't want the spotlight to leave. She can't quit impeachment. It's only been 2.5 weeks, and it is premature to declare that Joe Biden is the president-elect. These are not conspiracy theorists motivated just by lies. That's a bunch of nonsense. They talk in religious terms about January 6th because what they believe was attacked was their cathedral. Who are they praying to? The gods of climate change? What's happening in Ukraine is important, but it pales in comparison to the crime I see in my streets, to the wokeness I see in my culture. Ainsley, I have 2 dead roosters. I didn't know how to kill them because I'm not an experienced farmer, so I tried with a shovel and I couldn't get their dead, so I had to use a 9mm.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles.
CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter joins me now. Brian, our viewers might not be active watchers of Fox News on the weekends, in the mornings when he is on. Given that, can you fill in the blanks on who this guy is?
Those clips really sum it up perfectly. Hegseth is a staunch conservative, an Army veteran, and one of Fox's real homegrown stars. Back on 9/11, he was a student at Princeton, so his worldview was shaped by the Bush-era wars. After college, he maneuvered out of a job at Bear Stearns to get into active combat in Iraq. He earned 2 Bronze Stars. When he came home, he ran a veterans advocacy nonprofit, briefly tried to run for Senate against Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota, but his path to the Pentagon really ran through the Fox and Friends morning show. Trump loved watching Hegseth on the show. He invited Hegseth to dinner at the White House back in 2017. So I can explain this pick in 2 words, Dana: woke military. Hegseth has, rallied and ranted against the Pentagon's adoption of so-called social justice policies. He's argued that woke policies are hurting military recruitment. He came out with a best-selling book titled The War on Warriors earlier this year that was promoted endlessly across Fox. And he said he agreed with Trump when Trump said we need to get the woke generals out of the military.
Yeah.
So clearly Trump was watching and enjoying and appreciating what Hegseth was saying.
Yeah, Brian, I was told the exact same thing by a Trump ally this morning, that this is about one thing and one thing only, and that is woke in the military. And how you define that and how that turns into actual practice, that's a whole different conversation. But I want our viewers to make sure after the show or while you're watching to check out your new piece on CNN.com, because you wrote in part, quote, nothing in his biography suggests experience leading large organization, as one of his fellow Fox hosts said Tuesday night in a flabbergasted tone, quote, you're telling me Pete is going to oversee millions of employees? But Hegseth has something else, of course, that is Trump values television star power. Is that what this is? Is he casting? I mean, in addition to the woke issue, which, again, we're going to have to explore and break down that term woke, but beyond that, is this Trump, as the casting director here?
Yeah. The Fox to Trump pipeline is back up and running. Yes, during Trump's first term in office, there were about 20 of these hires, 20 people who traveled from Fox over to the Trump administration. We'll see how many there are this time, right? Tom Homan is the border czar. He left Fox on Monday. Hegseth left Fox on Tuesday. This is all happening very quickly. I mean, literally, Hegseth gave his notice to Fox within the last 48 hours. And it's a head-spinning change for him. He is going to be overseeing a department that has about 3 million employees. He has 7 kids and recently relocated to Tennessee. He is first and foremost a television star, but we know that's what Trump cares about. He watches very carefully. We'll see how much opposition, though, Hegseth faces in the coming weeks, since his selection has caught so many people off guard, even some senators saying they barely know who he is. I remember, Dana, when I was working on a book in 2020 called Hoax, I talked to a lot of sources inside Fox, and they told me that they felt like Hegseth produced his show, hosted Fox and Friends, specifically to appeal to Trump. Hegseth would look at his phone during the commercial breaks to see if Trump had tweeted anything he had said yet. So this relationship, it is many years in the making and very close between Trump and Hegseth.
Talk about an audience of one. Wow, that's some pretty
Exactly.
enlightening reporting. Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate it.